Town Council meeting. If you would, please stand for the invocation. And tonight we have Pastor Bill Roberts with us from the First United Methodist Church. Thank you, sir, for being here. And upon completion of the invocation, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. So,
let us pray. God of all people, when we feel overwhelmed, when our needs seem so great and our resources seem so small, we can be tempted to pray the ancient prayer, "Dear God, be good to me, for the sea is so wide and my boat is so small." But there's wonderful wisdom in the teaching that says, don't tell your God how big the storm is, tell the storm how big your God is. As the leaders of the town of Valdez and the leaders of its faith communities, help us to not focus only on the scarcity we perceive in our abilities, the scarcity we perceive in our time and energy, the scarcity we perceive in our financial resources. Instead, let us trust upon the abundance of our God, you who hold all things in your perfect hands. Give this town council your wisdom and your grace to make the choices, especially the difficult choices, that will best serve all of this community. Give this council the assurance that your love for them and for this community is boundless, and that you hold in your hands the resources to make all things possible if only we will trust in you. We offer this prayer, trusting that all things are possible for you, our God, the one in whose name we pray. Amen.
pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you. Okay, council. I trust that everyone went through their communications notes and reading material. And going down to open forum, I'll ask the Mayor Pro Tem to read the guidelines to speak at our open forum, please.
Open forum and public comments. The council shall provide at least one period for public comment per month during a regular meeting, unless no regular meeting is held that month. Any individual or group who wishes to address the council shall inform the clerk anytime prior to the start of the meeting and provide their name, address, and subject matter about which they wish to speak. Persons must be present if they wish to address the council. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Open forum is not intended to require council or staff to answer impromptu questions. Speakers will address all comments to the entire council as a whole and not one individual member. Discussions between speakers and members of the audience will not be permitted. Speakers will maintain a decorum at all times. Speakers are expected to be courteous and respectful at all times, regardless of who occupies council chairs. These guidelines will help to ensure that a safe and productive meeting is held and that all those wishing to address the council will be afforded the opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, first on our list is Isaiah Webb.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Isaiah Webb at 300 Church Street Northwest. I'm new to the community, but I grew up just across the lake in Bayton. I have a few areas of concern after attending my first meeting the last session, and since I've done quite a bit of research. First, I want to thank the new councilwoman for pointing out that we have a 10-year plan that you all approved on June 3rd, 2024. In the proposed budget on page 24. The council seems to get sidetracked on unnecessary or future matters rather than focus on actual action needed. I work in healthcare and agree that a public safety building is a priority for the community. When I first moved in while walking my dog at night, we were passed by an individual who appeared homeless or of low economic status. He turned back and asked us if we had a phone. I didn't really know what to do, because if I told him no, I could possibly get robbed, or if I told him yes, I could also possibly get robbed. I let him use my phone after he assured me it was just to make a phone call, and then the number tried contacting me, to which I blocked it. This is not something I really had to deal with in other cities that I lived in, such as Boone or Hickory. So I do understand and appreciate the desire to procure better facilities for public servants and safety. My question is why we can't multitask and focus on multiple relevant issues at once. Things pop up and you can't just push them off for later. One of the desires to move to Valdez, other than being close to home and the walkable downtown area, was the covered pool. I love to swim. Boone has wonderful indoor facilities that I got accustomed to. Working in healthcare, I understand how beneficial swimming can be. I was disappointed by the area's lack of indoor facilities while living in Hickory. You have the YMCA and the Morganton Aquatic Center. So I was excited when I moved to Valdez and learned that they had a covered pool. However, upon buying my membership, I learned that the bubble was no more, and hopefully they'd have a permanent solution soon. A councilwoman suggested that we made it through this winter fine and that we can deal with another or use another facility out of concern for kids not being able to use the facilities during the summer. Now, there are kind of no other options for covered winter pools, but there are local options for summer pools. Sorry, I'm not feeling too well.
Okay, we're gonna recess for 5 minutes.
Maybe Mo just went out to get that.
Hey, Mayor. Mayor. Okay, folks, if I can get your attention, if you would, everybody exit the room until we can clean up some, and we'll call you back in just a little bit. We'll call the meeting back to order. Thank you all for your patience and indulgence there. Our next speaker is Dr. Lafferty, sir.
My name is John Lafferty. I live at 313 Mountain View Avenue, and I have lived there for 41 years. On a personal note, of our gentleman that got up, I checked on him, and he's
Thank
he's
you.
fine. So,
Thank you.
Okay. In my former life, I was a physician. So 25 years ago, Jeff Morse, town manager, approached me with a bold and visionary plan to cover the Valdez pool during the winter season for year-round swimming and aquatic activities. And he wanted to know if that would be okay with me. And I said, why? I'm happy to get your input. He looked upon me rightly or wrongly as the tennis expert, and the construction was going to involve destroying one of the 3 tennis courts down at the rec center. If he was worried about my response, he didn't need to be, because it took me about 1 second to say, this is the most fantastic idea I've heard since I've lived in this town. And for a quarter century, this town has enjoyed year-round swimming at a local facility with 2 high schools now, a master's, seniors that swim, patients that desperately need it, families, as well as having parties year-round. In January 24, we all know that the bubble finally collapsed, but I think we need to remember that it was ailing for several months prior to that, and the pool was essentially not being used much of that time. A decision was made at the last month's meeting to postpone any further decisions on this till July. And I know that this council prides itself on not reducing essential services, and we could argue about whether a swimming pool is an essential service, and you may win the day if you argued against me. And I don't want to use the word essential, but I want to use the word an important service for many, many people. Our interim town manager gave his best report based upon the numbers, and I do have a personal belief that it was an incomplete report and it left out several groups. I have asked over 20 people in this town, all of whom have lived here for many, many years. I calculated it was collectively over 500 years of life in this town. And I asked them this question: can you think of a major service that once started was significantly postponed? And I have yet to, and I said, and if you can't think of one off the top of your head, I want you to get back to me. I have not received a single phone call about that. And I do believe that this council is in favor of constructing a year-round cover for this pool. But in our use of language, we talk about how we use words carefully. The number one reason for having a cover over the pool, yes, there are certainly services that are amenable to summer and having a cover over the pool, and I won't enumerate them, but we all know the main reason to have a cover over the pool is so we can have aquatic activities in the winter when it's just simply too cold to swim in the mountains of North Carolina. This decision, if it's not taken up to July, will certainly result in a second winter where we have lost these activities. We can talk about delay, but there comes a point where delay merges into and morphs into reduction. And I think that time has now arrived. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jonas Johnson. Jonas? Okay. Mr. Ben Lutz.
I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak to you, express how I feel about the town's direction, which I love this town. Lived here all but 2 years of my 66 years, a great town. The town is running good, I feel like. It's in good hands. And I want to profess this. I grew up in here, Valdez, and
Mr. Lutz, I apologize for interrupting, but I need your name and address, please.
1104 Lutz Street, Valdez, North Carolina, 28690. I reckon you know that.
Well, I gotta have it on the phone.
I am nervous. Live in Ward 4, but my main focus right now is, I was in the fire department at one time, and I know the importance of the fire department and the police department. The training involved, the time that spent away from your families And we're in need of a fire department and replace in police department. And I think myself, that should be our number one priority. And I'm not saying these other items are not important, but when I was a firefighter, they told us, we were taught about tunnel vision, getting caught up looking at the fire and not being aware of your surroundings. And I feel like at times when I watch the council, it's not looking at the fire, but it's worried more about the surroundings than the fire at times. And I just feel like we need to focus on that. I'd like to see you go ahead with that. I agree with the pool cover. I have no problem with that. But I'd like to see you just go ahead and as soon as you can, do something about the police and fire departments because they're a great asset to the town. I'd like to see the boys make more money. They deserve it. You know, they put a lot of time in. It's dangerous. And I think we need to support them in that. One item I was gonna bring up, the roads in my ward, they're pretty bad. Me and my wife rode through town on that side of the town, and it was Orchard Street, My Street, South Avenue, Colonial, Pineburn, Milton, Foxhole, and Clyde, which is a small part of town, but there's a lot of houses over there. A lot of money's being paid by us in taxes. But our roads are pretty bad. And I counted 56 places in the highway, just in those small sections there where they had been either replaced recently or in years past. And when you replace it 5-10 years ago, it sinks down, you know, so it's rough. And they just now replaced the line over there on Orchard, and everybody's riding in the middle of the road now because it was done over the weekend or last Friday maybe. But I mean, it's rough, and I'm sure they're gonna come back and fix that. But that's the only things, you know, I really want to address, that I feel like we need to get focused on some things. You know, these things are important, but knock out the big ones. Don't get so tied up and spend, you know, we got a limited budget. It sounds like we got a lot of money, but that can get gone in a hurry, especially if you get 4 or 5 different items going at one time. And you never know when something might happen. You know, I heard you talked about in the meeting the other day about, you know, the hurricane that went through Helene. Well, we had one called Hugo that made a mess out of this town. So you never know when something might come along that you better have some money in reserve for. But I appreciate your opportunity to speak before you all. I've never done this before, so I am nervous. But we have a good council, good mayor. And I know you have hard decisions to make. I just ask you to make wise ones.
Thank you, sir.
So,
Nancy Tucker.
It was hard to hear back in the back, so I'll make sure you can hear me. Okay. I'm Nancy Tucker. I live at 210 Forest Drive Northeast here in Valdez. My daddy jokingly called me an old penny. He kept saying, you just keep turning up. Well, I guess he was right, because here I am again at the Valdez Town Council. And I'm here as a believer in Valdez, not representing any group or a commission. And it's a surprise to me that I even have to be here again. At the December Valdez Town Council meeting, all council members voted for the construction of the permanent pool structure, or so we believed. And I know you remember that there was applause after the yes vote was completed. I went home that evening and I called and emailed my friends, my family members. It's like, positive progress has been made by the council. The pool cover project was approved and year-round swimming service would be available once again. I made my donation to the pool fund. I even asked my children to donate to the pool fund as my Christmas present this year. I had lots of people asking, when will construction begin? When will the pool be ready? How do we donate? What are you doing to raise money? Oh, there was excitement. And then January came. 3 council members pulled the rug out from under the pool project. You said, yes, we're for the pool, but we'll delay it 6 months. What? Why? What will you know in 6 months that you didn't know in January? You knew you needed a fire and police building. You knew how much money you had in the budget. You knew the cost of the permanent pool structure. And you knew that the pool was going to be closed for a while during construction. In the January meeting, Councilman Ward banged her fist on the desk and said she needed a place for her children to swim during the summer, so we should delay the pool structure construction. If we had started the pool construction last month, all children, adults, swim teams could soon actually be swimming in the pool year-round. We could be having pool parties, and people could buy pool memberships. Lifeguards could actually be doing their job. Swim lessons could be conducted. Water aerobics could be held in the water. What a novel idea. And there would be income coming into the pool. I feel like I've been hoodwinked. I feel deceived, tricked into thinking that we were actually doing something positive for the town. You said one thing and kind of did another. I don't know how you reconcile this with yourself, but I have hard time sleeping at night sometimes due to the contentiousness of this. In the past week, there were 2 opportunities on Tuesday and Saturday to view the results of the Parks and Recreation Center's 10-year plan survey that's conducted by COG. The public had a chance to view these survey results and to make additional comments and recommendations. Putting the pool structure up was a major concern for many of those attending, and I appreciate the council members that showed up and showed an interest in seeing and hearing these concerns. And it's budget time again. Listen to the majority of the Valdez residents and the area residents that use these facilities. Spend the money that Valdez has and get this pool project undelayed or unpostponed. Since there's no contract for the pool structure at this point, formal fundraising by the Parks and Recreation Commission has not started. It's difficult to ask for donations for something that's still a dream until this council makes the decision for a permanent pool structure and makes the decision and sticks to it. My children are holding on to my Christmas gift and making the donation for the pool structure. So please, I'm asking you to make my Christmas wish come true. Thank you.
Thank you. Beth Hiley.
Good evening. My name is Beth Hiley, and I live at 5291 Mineral Springs Mountain Avenue, Valdez. I'm president of Friends of the Valdez Rec and executive director of the Burke River Trail Association. My comments tonight are regarding the sidewalk, the Lovelady Sidewalk project. I respectfully request that you do not withdraw from the municipal agreement, and here is why. During a January 24th meeting with Representative Blackwell, Councilman Harvey, COG staff member Daniel Odom, and myself, we had Mr. Odom clarify the following. Number 1, Town of Valdez has 1 to 2 years to act on this agreement. There is no need to rush to a decision. Number 2, reimbursables can be submitted every 30 days. Valdez does not have to wait until the project is complete to be reimbursed the $1.1 million. Number 3, the 20% match can come from any source. Friends of the Valdez Rec, Burke River Trail Association, and Representative Blackwell will look for the $286,000 needed to cover the town's cost. Based on these clarifications, there is no harm in the town waiting 6 months or even a year to make a final decision on accepting or rejecting the municipal grant agreement. On the other hand, turning down a grant can negatively hinder future grant awards. Regarding concern that this grant could impact the town of Valdez credit rating in acquiring a USDA loan for the public safety buildings, initial findings are 0 impact because this is a grant and not a loan. However, Representative Blackwell is working with Congress to get final verification on that. Regarding the location of the sidewalk and the big picture, Representative Blackwell and I have been working the last several years to bring a state trail and a regional trail to Valdez for economic development opportunities and quality of life. The Wilderness Gateway State Trail will come from South Mountain State Park over Mineral Springs Mountain into Valdez, We're working on a Western North Carolina Gateway Center at Exit 111 that will highlight Valdez, Burke County, and the state parks in the area, where the Burke River Trail will connect all 9 municipalities. Part of these 2 trails is a 7-mile pedestrian loop from Main Street to McGalliard Falls to Valdez Lakeside Park and back. But there are 2 gaps in that 7-mile loop, Church Street and Lovelady Road. We first looked at the Church Street gap where there's a 2,000 section without sidewalk. Part is town of Valdez and part is Burke County. I called a meeting with NCDOT, Valdez, Burke County, and the COG to see how we could make this happen. Everyone was on board, but then we found out there's 0 DOT right-of-way in that area. So I'm gonna have to contact each landowner to see about having trail across the front of their yard. I've not started yet because DOT says they have say-so on these specifications, but Church Street is not eligible for this LAP funding that Lovelady got. So for the Lovelady section gap, the grant funding will cover Phase 1, Laurel to Crescent. For Phase 2, state parks, DOT, and other trail advocates have been working on a process to allow natural surface trails in DOT right-of-way. The hope is where Lovelady widens out after Crescent Street, this can be a more cost-effective natural surface trail once this new process is approved. Finally, for the pedestrian bridge crossing Hoyle Creek at Lovelady Road, this bridge is being covered by a $2.2 million Hoyle Creek restoration and side path project that's underway, so no expense to the town for this bridge. As you can see, progress is being made on all phases of the Lovelady pedestrian access. This is not a sidewalk to nowhere, but a section of a bigger plan for Valdez, just one piece of the puzzle. Whether there is no action taken on the agenda item to withdraw Lovelady application, or the action is to postpone the decision for several months, it'll give us time with Representative Blackwell's help to find the matching money needed so there's no cost burden to the town of Valdez. So please, look at the big picture. Do not withdraw from the Lovelady Sidewalk Municipal Agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick McClure.
My name is Rick McClure. I live at 408 Guru Avenue. There's a couple things I want to talk about tonight. I don't think that the town of Valdez has withdrawn from the pool cover. The biggest problem I see with the pool cover was, for years, all the town councils never put a dime in the budget to replace something. Replace that pool. They had it for 20-some years. They knew 10 years, they patched it for a long time. So there's several people in the towns all concerned about it. They wasn't concerned about it back then when they could put money in the budget, at least $100,000 to $1,000 a year, you know, when we had some money. So I don't think it creates an emergency on our part for non-forward-looking town council people to say we got to build that thing right now. We got a 6-month delay. I don't know if y'all understand or not, but the federal government just locked down all spending for 6 months or so. You you try to go out and get some money now, you're not going to get it. They're trying to find money to move on to other places. The state of North Carolina is going to put a bunch of money in trying to rebuild our fellow people up in the mountains. That's probably the reason we won't get our roads redone for the next couple of years, because all the money that's going to help on that is going to go to try to rebuild our fellow people in North Carolina. So fund money is drying up quick, and there's no way of getting around it. There's at least 6 months delay on any kind of grants that's going to be given out, maybe a year. We don't know. So to put ourselves in a pickle to try to come up with money, it's going, our biggest problem right now, the police department, the fire department. And because the town council years ago decided not to put money in there, I think the pool cover can wait a while. That's just 61 people in Valdez that use it in the wintertime. A lot of rigmarole goes on for just 61 people. So in my opinion, we can hold off until, number one, we can find out if we get some grant money on some of these, things for the, maybe the fire department, who knows? I know they're trying to do it. But until then, 6 months is not a problem. That's just a drop in the bucket for what happens in 6 months. 6 months ago, when I was a kid, was a long time. 6 months goes fast now, when you're 81 years old. So, I'm in favor, hold off for 6 months. I don't think we decided not to do that. I think we decided just to hold off for 6 months. So a lot of rigmarole here because somebody decided to hold off for 6 months. They're gonna build this thing. That's not a problem. But don't make it a emergency on this town council because former town councils never put a dime in to take care of it. Have a good evening.
Mr. Kevin Dixon.
Good evening, council. My name is Kevin Dixon. I live 2343 Dulatown Heights Road in Lenoir, North Carolina. And I'm here basically just as an introduction of myself and my wife, Tamika Dixon. We have bought daycare, Giggles and Grins, and well, it will be named Mimi's Kids. And we look forward to doing business here. Everyone we've met so far, people in town in town hall and fire marshal and everybody's been very great to work with, great information and they're helping us out. And we just want to say thank you, and we look forward to doing business here and being a part of Valdez.
Thank you.
Thank
It's good
you.
to have you. Thank you, sir. Mark Small.
Good evening, council and mayor. My name is Mark Small, 712 Murray Avenue. There continues to be an uproar over spending priorities in the town's finances. As I mentioned in last month's meeting, needs or our infrastructure should come before wants or amenities in our spending and budgeting priorities. I'm all for the amenities. I learned to swim in the pool. I've been here 60 years plus. I've walked on the trail. The trail is awesome. The bridge is awesome. So I'm not against it, but I think we have priorities and there are limited needs. First of all, the town already carries some significant debt. For example, on page 561 of the agenda package, you'll see that we pay $19,483 annually on the splash pad facility loan that runs through 2058. The remaining 34 payments, principal and interest, comes to approximately $662,000. We also pay $88,878 annually on the town hall building loan, what we're standing in now, that runs through 2051. We originally borrowed $1.8 million. We still owe 27 annual payments, principal and interest of almost $2.4 million. In addition to this, there are some other factors to consider. In the past, we've heard about aging equipment at the water sewage plant that needs expensive replacing or upgrading. We seem to be taking a Band-Aid approach to that. Are we properly budgeting for this in each year's budget? Or are we just kicking the ball down the road? Will this come back to bite us soon? Also, much has been made about the grant money for projects like the sidewalk and pool cover. It's already been mentioned, but just last week, the new administration placed a freeze on grants. The next day, the federal courts got involved and issued a stay. How long will these legal matters linger? Do we really know at this point what's going to happen with the grant money? Has anyone checked? Do we have written guarantees as of today, February 3rd, 2025, that we're going to get that grant money? Lastly, Burke County is going to do a one-year property value reassessment in light of Hurricane Helene. If those values are adjusted down, how will that affect the town's ad valorem taxes? It's something to consider. The idea that the town hasn't funded any amenities is also ridiculous. The town recently spent $600,000 for the downstairs renovations at the rec center, much needed. Plus, the town also contributed to the Rock School renovations. We cannot continue spending on amenities without raising taxes. Middle and low income household budgets are already stretched to the breaking point as it is now. Can we afford to add to the promises what promises to be a mid-seven-figure $1 million loan for a needed public safety facility, plus a loan for $1.4 million pool cover while servicing our existing current debt? Right now, as we speak, our firefighters are staying in a trailer behind the old public safety building. Think of that for a moment. So what are our priorities? So remember, needs before wants. To paraphrase that old song, you can't always get what you want, but if you try real hard, you just might get what you need. Thank you.
Okay. Karen Caruso.
I'm Karen Caruso. I live at 805 Michael Avenue. Yesterday, I was forwarded 2 emails a friend received last week. They included tax rate surveys authored by 2 council members with the promise to share the feedback from the email with a 3rd council member. The 60, quote, friends and neighbors, unquote, who received them were encouraged to share the emails with others who care. So that's why they were forwarded to me. I do care, and I think you should go with the tax rate the staff recommends. The troubling thing about these emails conducting town business is that they were sent from and copied to the personal email accounts of the 2 council members, not their official town accounts. This is repeat behavior that local media has covered before. This isn't transparency, so here's some food for thought for the council. Could these ethical lapses make a manager candidate hesitant to accept your employment offer? I hope that you will also ask yourselves if the apparent support for months on end of the sidewalk grant and the pool cover, only to be halted at the 11th hour, could have a negative impact on prospective managers. Could the disrespectful treatment of interim managers, department heads, vendors, business owners, and others standing where I am right now also not cast council in the best light? After a year and nearly 5 times the cost to a quote-unquote outside firm and still no manager, council will, hopefully, be signing the same $3,500 COG contract for a town manager that was presented a year ago. At the pre-agenda meeting last week, the COG representative was asked if they were selling the town to prospective candidates. I believe the town sells itself. I would like to ask if the council should be selling itself to the candidates. After all, they will be serving at your pleasure until they aren't. Do you think they are looking at the meeting videos, reading minutes, and newspaper articles? What might they see or read that would keep them from even applying for the manager position? Have you asked yourselves if you're the visionary leaders a qualified executive would want to partner with to create a successful future for the town? I mean absolutely no disrespect to any of you. You're dedicated and work hard for the town. Think about chewing on this food for thought as you continue the search for a new manager. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cole.
Sorry, short people. Yes, I'm Jean Marie Cole. I live at 705 Berta Street in Valdez, and we've lived there over 30 years now and enjoyed this town. I said, tonight, two very important matters. The public safety buildings and permanent pool structure need to be resolved, and that's my thought. The public safety issue for the police. A couple of months ago, it was on the way to completion. Building on Main Street was purchased. Great place for a police department to be, right in the public eye. Chief Sharp had determined how he could use that building, and he'd even sorted through a lot of the furniture and things that were left there to see which pieces he could use to save money for the town. It was decided to use the design build plan, but now that's all on hold. The fire station. Land was purchased on Massell Avenue to replace a purchase of land on Pottenborough. The architect's study had determined that the best use for that land was for a fire station alone for safety reasons. This again was decided to be a design build plan. Now, this is on hold too. We can't trust the professional advice that we already paid for from an architect. So we created a multifaceted design build plan which could likely go out to some contractors who might bid on it, but it might also discourage some who were ready to bid on renovating a building or building a fire station, but they aren't equipped to do both. So we may have lost some of the best contractors by doing that. Permanent pool structure. It was out as far as acceptance of a bid. Then we put the brakes on that one too. Let's postpone that one for 6 months or longer if we have to, because we got to know what we're doing up here on the public safety buildings. This means going out to bid again, legally, at least once and possibly twice. Why not work with the current contract we had and maybe get some type of a deal where he could start preliminary work, and that would last until, say, the end of August. Well, the end of August, our kids are all back in school. Summer's over, guys. And September would give us a whole month at least to put a structure actually over the pool, and we would be ready to use it for all the swim teams, the swim lessons, the classes, and public recreation over the winter time. Most of us in our personal private lives or as family members, homeowners, or business persons have had to deal with circumstances creating emergencies that needed for both things, two or more, to be done at the same time. And we had to decide how each project needed to be handled, including financing them, and then put all those projects in motion. That's what we really should be doing now. Decide now on the public safety and pool projects, which will be done to finance how. Public safety probably gets the best loan. If you're looking out for loans and grants, it's probably going to get the more money at a cheaper rate. The pool already has grant money, and it has a large section of donated money to go with that, and a plan for fundraising that was all set to go, and now that one's on hold too. So, don't repeat the errors that our predecessors have made while sitting in those seats and trying to do a good job. I'm not faulting them for that, but they were procrastinating, and they kicked the can down the road for both of these projects. We need to act now on both of them. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, council, before we go to the next item, consent agenda, I need to entertain a motion for a closed agenda, a closed meeting, so that COG can make a presentation to us on our search for a town manager.
So move.
Second, please.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes and raising your right hand.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, I have one tiny item regarding the agenda. Item 7H, Roman numeral 3, says fiscal year 24 year-to-date financial results. I think that should be fiscal year 25. I'm sure it's a typo, but I want to make sure.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Wilkins says it is.
Okay. All right. Consent agenda, folks. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes and raising your right hand.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, new business, item 7A. Council, the first item under new business is a public hearing for the proposed new Unified Development Ordinance, or UDO as you may know it. Since this is a public hearing, I will now declare the public hearing open, and I think COG is going to present this to us, folks. Thank you.
Hi. Good evening, council. My name's Ashley Young. I'm the planner for the town of Valdez. I am with the Western Piedmont Council of Governments, and let's see, the first item was the UDO, correct? Yes. All right, so the requested action tonight is to adopt the Unified Development Ordinance, also called the UDO, which combines and replaces the town's current zoning ordinance, subdivision regulations, and flood damage prevention ordinance. So a little bit of background from where we're coming from on this is communities across North Carolina have been adopting UDOs to combine planning and development ordinances into a single and easy to use document to clarify guidelines and to improve the text and graphics of the document and address present code issues and changing state law. Over the past 2 years, Green Heron Plain, Mr. Ben Hitchings, that'll be presenting after me, has worked with former planning director Larry Johnson and the town attorney Tim Swanson to develop the town's UDO. By doing so, there was 4 items that they mainly worked on. That's combining the existing ordinances into a single document, creating summary tables to provide a quick reference on development review procedures, permitted uses, and dimensional standards established by the town, and to clarify ordinance standards and procedures to remove conflicting language and help comply with current state and federal laws. And lastly, to update and modernize the development standards to address community land use and development issues on the selected topics. As a result, this is one unified development ordinance to make it easier to use and better meet current planning and development needs for the town. Keep in mind that UDOs are living documents that often change with evolving needs of the community. As a result, the town should make periodic updates to the UDO to meet the needs of the community. On December 16th of 2024, the UDO was presented to the planning board, where it received unanimous approval for recommendation to the council. It is staff recommendation that the Unified Development Ordinance be consistent with the Valdez vision, a land use plan for the future, and recommends approval with the following consistency statement. The town of Valdez recommends approval for the town of Valdez United Development Ordinance by the following circumstances. Brings the town's ordinance into compliance with current state statutes, protection of natural environment and quality of life for the community by including the floodplain and watershed ordinance within the UDO, providing a clear and easy to understand ordinance by combining currently separated ordinances into a cohesive document, enhancing formatting and readability, and by adding use tables to clearly illustrate what is permitted within zoning districts and steps for approval. And also that the UDO is consistent with the current land use plan, Valdez Vision Land Use Action Plan. That's kind of a general overview of what we're looking at today and what the consistency would be for adoption. And right now I'll hand it over to Mr. Ben Hitchings, who is a consultant on doing the UDO rewrite.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ms. Young. Great to be with y'all. Mayor Watts, members of the Valdez Town Council. We had a chance to visit earlier this month, or now it's last month, I guess. And so I thought that was very productive. As Ms. Young mentioned, we are, with this project, bringing together your existing ordinances into a single, more usable, easier to read document. A unified development ordinance. So y'all, of course, right now have a zoning ordinance, subdivision regulations, and a flood damage prevention ordinance that are separate documents. Those have all been brought together into a single document. We also are using tables and graphics more in the planning field, and so we've got summary tables that describe all the different development permits, describe the different allowable uses and which zoning districts they can be pursued in to help the boards, to help applicants, to help folks in the community know what is allowed where in the town. Every year, the North Carolina General Assembly makes a variety of updates and revisions to state statutes. So this project has gone through the ordinances and worked to bring them into compliance with the current state statutes. And this is a challenge that every community goes through, just trying to make sure their local ordinances remain up to date so that we follow the correct rules from the state level. And then often when we do these kinds of projects, it's a chance to update some standards that are maybe things that the town would like to have to allow evolving uses in a particular location. And so one example we had was a lot of interest in swimming pools and side yards. And so y'all were seeing a lot of cases like that in front of the Board of Adjustment. That's the kind of thing that we can then bring into the ordinance and allow appropriate standards to make those processes move forward more easily. As Ms. Young mentioned, I spent a couple of years working with Mr. Larry Johnson, your planning director for 40 plus years. And so we went through the ordinance, talked through how to make it easier to read, what kind of issues the town was experiencing with land use in different places. And so developed a variety of updates and a reorganization of the ordinance. And then, as is always important with these processes, Mr. Johnson and I then worked with your town attorney, Mr. Swanson, to give a thorough legal review, get his expert eyes looking on the clarity of the ordinance and the legality of it. And then finally, we worked with Ms. Young and had her help in bringing this item through for consideration by the planning board. And of course, you've heard their recommendation. And then, of course, just last month, I had the pleasure of coming and visiting with y'all and meeting with the town manager and his team in small groups with the council. And y'all got an explanatory memo that goes sort of through the major items that are content changes, not just sort of reformatting or grammatical changes. We also provided a red line document that shows which things are proposed to be changed. I thought had a really good series of meetings with y'all to talk through these issues, hear your thoughts, answer your questions. One thing that we have had to deal with since those meetings is there was a change in state law at the very end of the legislative session. It was actually part of the hurricane relief bill. And so communities across the state that have been updating their ordinances had to take into account this new change. And so the way in order to allow this to move forward in a way that complies with that updated framework, we've structured it so that the UDO will be effective for existing development and new development on July 1st of this year. But if you are to adopt the ordinance tonight, then from that point forward, until July 1st, folks who come in with proposals for new development would have the option of choosing either the new standards or the existing standards. And so those provisions together, after consultation with the town attorney and staff at the School of Government, allow us to bring this forward at this time in a compliant way. And so here we are. After a couple years of work, we've got a new, easier to use set of development standards with a lot of quick reference tables, updated standards to comply with the state statutes. And so it is here now before you for your consideration tonight. And I am available if you have any questions or comments that you would like to ask.
Council,
Mr. Mayor.
questions?
I don't have any questions, I just say this is, I think this is wonderful. Anybody who has plowed through the Valdez ordinances for zoning ordinance for any reason will appreciate this new one. And no doubt all the council members and all the citizens out there have gone through the new one in the agenda packet over the weekend. But, and any place you're gonna build or do something with that impacts zoning, it's always a barrier to get through the documentation, find what you're looking for, and this really simplifies it as well as bringing it up to date. So I think it's great.
Council, anyone else?
I think the quick reference tables, I think that you're to be commended for developing those. I looked at that, and it was very easy to follow. And I will also commend in public the hard work that I know the planning board and Mr. Johnson, as well as you, Ben, worked on this. I appreciate, or we all appreciate it.
A really great team effort. They did a great job working with us.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, at this time, are there any members of the public who would like to speak for or against this item? Seeing none. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Seeing none. Council, I'll entertain a motion and a second to adopt the UTO.
I make a motion that we adopt the United Development Ordinance as presented.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor and Council, let's phrase the motion. It'll be a motion to adopt the proposed ordinance, adopting the Unified Development Ordinance, and adopting the consistency and reasonableness statement. So if you would like that to be your motion, you can say so moved.
So moved. Thank you.
You'll need a second.
So second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, signify how you wish to vote. For yes, raise your right hand and state yes, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Seeing none opposed, motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much.
One quick comment, if I may. I know Mr. Johnson worked on this thing forever, and he used to say, when I get this done, I can retire. Well, he came tonight to finally retire, so thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Okay, at this time, I declare the public hearing closed. Council item B under new business, public hearing, rezoning of 401 Morgan Street Southeast Valdez. This will be the next item under new business. It is also a public hearing, and I will now declare this public hearing open. And who's speaking? Ashley again. Thank you, ma'am.
Alright, so this is a rezoning application for 401 Morgan Street Southeast. It is about 0.3 acres, and it's looking to rezone from M1 to the R8 zoning district. The existing parcel is zoned for manufacturing and is currently used as a daycare facility. The owner wishes to bring the existing use into conformity, and as such needs a rezoning to the R8 residential district, which would allow for a daycare facility with a conditional use permit. The existing land uses in the general vicinity of the subject property to the north The properties are zoned R8 residential and are occupied of a mix of single-family homes and institutional uses. To the south, the property is zoned N1 manufacturing and contains manufacturing uses. To the east, also zoned N1 manufacturing, but contains a residential use. To the west, zoned M1 manufacturing and contains a manufacturing use. As far as traffic's concerned, Morgan Street Southeast dead ends into the manufacturing facility behind 401 Morgan Street. The subject parcel is currently operated as a daycare facility, and traffic is projected to not change with the change in the zoning district. Public services, again, this was an already existing facility, continuing in the same use, and there wouldn't be any projected increase on water, sewer, police, or fire as it already exists. Consistency of the proposed zoning within the Valdez vision, a land use plan. The proposed zoning district of the R8 residential is compatible with the future land use of the quote, residential. It is just a solid residential district identified by the future land use map in that plan. And also on December 16th of 2024, the Planning Board of Adjustment unanimously recommended this rezoning to council for approval. On the second page of your staff report that you have in front of you is an aerial view of where the property is located. And as you can see, that is at basically the dead end of Morgan Street Southeast. On the third page of your staff report, it's a same aerial but with the zoning districts overlaid. You can see where that Morgan Street goes from being your B1 district down into R8 and then into manufacturing and those surrounding uses that I mentioned earlier to the north, south, east, and west. And then on the fourth page, that should be your last page of your staff report, there's the future land use map that is shown in your vision plan. And it's for the old town, but if you zoom in, right there where the property is, you will see where it is designated as residential, and that's consistent with the rezoning request. So staff finds the rezoning petition for 401 Morgan Street Southeast to be consistent with the Valdez Vision Land Use Action Plan for the future, and recommends approval for the following consistency statement. Consistent, the Town of Valdez Council would approve the rezoning of application 401 Morgan Street Southeast from M1 to R8 as consistent with the recommendations made by the Valdez Vision Plan for the future, reflecting the property's designation as a residential district on the future land use map. That's all I have, and if y'all have any
Questions, council?
And I do believe the applicant's here. If y'all would like to speak, you may at this time.
Yeah.
Or unless you've already said what you want to do.
Okay, council, I don't hear any questions from you. Is there any members of the public that would like to speak for or against this? Seeing none, is there anyone else that wants to speak? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed, and council will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the rezoning request to R8 residential.
Thank you. Second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yes and raising your right hand.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries. And welcome, Mr. Dixon and Mrs. Dixon. It's good to have you. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, we'll also, as part of that, we'll need a motion to adopt the proposed consistency and reasonableness statement as well.
Okay.
Can we do what he says? Do I need to say that?
So moved.
So moved, yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second, so moved.
Those in favor signify by saying yes and raising your right hand.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Absolutely. Okay. Item C, adoption of community development block grant, grant infrastructure, CDBG documents presented by COG. Sir, I started to call you Sherry.
You can call me Sherry if you want. I'm not Miss Sherry Griffin. She is not feeling well this evening, so I'm going to try.
That seems to be going around.
Yeah, it does. So I'm going to try my best to fill in. I know this council, thank you first, Mr. Mayor and council for having me talk tonight. This is, of course, regarding the Berrytown project. Each of you are very familiar with that. The documents in your packet are the various plans that we need to adopt with any CDBG or Community Development Block Grants that basically go over the town having access to public meetings, dealing with language access plans, meaning that you would help people that if they spoke a different language, you would give them access. Basically, it's the town doing the town stuff, but in their language. So I can go over any of the documents. I'm not as deep in the weeds of the project as Sherry and some of our other staff are involved, but I am familiar with most of it and will do my best to answer any questions that you may have about any of those particular documents.
Council, you have any questions regarding what's in your agenda packet?
We just need to adopt this, is that right?
Yes, yes, sir.
And I guess could you or Mr. Weichel just tell us how the funding goes with this? When does the town get the funds? When does the so we're gonna get out an RFQ, so
yes, sir.
The construction will be 2 or 3 months down the road, I guess.
Yeah, correct. Yes, sir. So the RFQ is the next, if you accept the plans, it's a $3 million CDBG, $3 million plus dollar. It's actually 3 grants into one. It won't cost the town any money. Even the RFQs and the public, all those dollars will come out of the grant. And this is, we've got the RFQ, we'll submit the RFQ with, working closely with Mr. Weichel and the town to make sure everything is proper and that we follow the proper protocol. Yep.
And when do we get the money?
It's reimbursed, everything is reimbursed. So you spend it and then you get it back.
Yeah, I just want to add, I know Sherry worked really hard on this. He got turned down once, he came back a second time.
Yep.
And you know what? I don't think many people in Valdez realize it, but that's $3 million of triple community water lines that we had to deal with or without a grant. If we hadn't got this grant, we'd be looking at a $3 million bill to deal with on our own.
Yeah.
So
yes, sir.
It's been great.
Yeah, good. We appreciate it. And anything we can do to help, we continue to help you guys.
Okay, anybody have any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adopt or for the adoption of Community Development Block Grant Infrastructure documents.
I make a motion for the adoption of the Community Development Block Grant Infrastructure.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion? Those in favor signify by saying yes and raising your right hand.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will leave these documents with you to sign. This is a whole chunk of them. You see lots of yellow.
Sounds good. Thank you. And again, I appreciate COG's work on this.
Yes.
Okay, item D, approval of RFQ for engineering services for the Berrytown Waterline Replacement Project.
I'll be Sherry again. This is just for the protocol for the town, just presenting you guys with the RFQ to be able to go after that. Now that we've adopted this, we can move forward and submit all these documents to Raleigh and begin the RFQ process. It's basically just making you aware that we are moving forward with this.
Okay. I don't think we need a vote on that. I think we just need to instruct you to proceed with the RFQ advertisement to procure an engineering firm.
Yeah, that works for me.
Council, is that good with you? So be it.
Yeah. All right.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
sir.
very much.
Thank you, Ben. Okay, item E, Presentation of financial update for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. Sir, you're on. It's good to see you guys again.
Mayor, Council, good to see you again. I'm Phil Church with Loudermilk Church and Company, CPAs, but I'm also a resident of Valdez, have been for many, many, many years. So it's a great town, a great place to live. A few comments. Rick Hammer is here with me. He was actually on the ground doing the audit, conducting the audit. So I'm going to make a few comments regarding the audit, and then I'll turn it over to him to go through the numbers. You can see that this report is about 101 pages. We're not going to try to go through that. What we try to do is make some highlights that we'll go through. But if anyone's really read this report and has a question, stop us and we'll try to answer it. We did give you what we call a clean, unmodified opinion, which of course is the type of opinion you would want to get. The other thing is we did what we call a Yellow Book audit. And it is either a Yellow Book audit or an A133 audit, depending on the funding you get. If you get an A133, you've gotten, I think it's over $750,000 in funds, but grant either federal or state funds. So you had just under that, so we did what's called a Yellow Book audit. You do have the highlights. Rick's going to go over the highlights with you. And like I said, as we go along, if you have a question, stop us. We'll try to answer it as best we can. Thank you.
One thing Phil didn't mention was that the LGC has reviewed the audit report and it was approved and it wasn't submitted. They had no corrections or issues or anything. And also in our Yellow Book report, we didn't have any kind of findings as far as any of the compliance items that we looked at. So everything was okay, no issues there either. As far as the highlights, again, we've done this in prior years. We have both comparative, so you can see from one year to the next. We start out with the general fund or the operating fund of the town. Cash and cash equivalents and investments at June 30, 24, you had $7,470,706 and total assets of just under $9 million at the end of June. The total fund balance, which is includes available, reserved, PAL bill monies, things of that nature. Total fund balance at the end of June was $8,724,530. And included in that amount was $111,000 for PAL bill, which street money reserved for streets. As far as revenues, the town took in $7.2 million in total revenues for the general fund and expended out $5,651,000. So you have a total of about $1.5 million before other uses and income. You actually transferred some money to your capital funds during the year, so you had about a $963,000 use for transfers and such. So your total increase in fund balance in the general fund was $588,030 for the year ending June 30. As far as ad valorem taxes collected, which was included in revenues, you collected $2,956,235 of the current year levy, and that was 99.37% of the actual levy. And you also had about $672,000 in investment income in the general fund. The available fund balance percentage this year was 102.17% of the calculation. Of course, the fund LGC used to like to have at least 8%. They've upped that over the last couple of years, but you're over 100% of your current year expenditures, so that's good. The second page is the water sewer fund. Again, we start with cash and investments. You had about $4.8 million in cash and investments in the water sewer fund at the end of June. And your total assets, which includes your plant less depreciation, was $29,479,608. And your net position or your equity in the water sewer fund was just over $23.1 million. As far as revenues, you took in $6,149,682 in water and sewer revenues, and you expended out about $6,052,000. So you had operating income this year of about $97,000. And then you transferred some money back to the general fund, about $221,000. And you had some grant money, which goes in as capital contributions. That was $158,382. So when you net all the incomes and expenses together, you had a net income or a change in net position of $42,548 in the water sewer fund. A couple other information items. Accounts receivable at the end of June was $752,344. And you had investment income in the water sewer fund of about $46,000. And when we look at the unrestricted equity compared to your expenditures in the water sewer fund, it was just under 80% this year. So it was up from last year about 10%. So I don't know if anyone had any particular questions on the report. They had a chance to look at it.
Couple of comments. You actually budgeted not to have any increase in fund balance, but you ended up with $588,000, so that's commendable, very good. The other thing is, you probably don't realize it, but these financial statements have two different types of financials in here. There's one called, that's like a business would be. You actually record capital assets, depreciate them, put the loans on the books. But these highlights are on the modified accrual basis, which is the way you budget. So it's sort of cash in, cash out. So two different sets of financials in your types of financials.
Questions, council?
A couple general things. Mr. Weichel gave us a copy of the audit a week ago, so it was kind of neat. We had last weekend to study that when we didn't have anything else to do. But what occurred to me is going through it and reading all the notes was what a tremendous education that was on how municipalities' finances work. And I tossed out a suggestion to the council members, but I should bounce it off you too, I guess, and then bounce it back off the council members. I was thinking that it would be a tremendous briefing session for the council if we could spend 2 or 3 hours and have you go through that whole 100 and some pages, almost page by page, but comments, covering the comments. And so I wonder, would you be willing to do that? And do you do that with any other clients?
Hart, we have actually done that before.
Okay.
Valdez Town Council.
You have, okay.
Yes, a number of years ago, we had a meeting, sat down, answered everyone's questions, went through the report page by page to try to explain how it works. And I agree with you. I've always told everyone that the footnotes tells the history or tells everything about the town, what their accounting principles are, explains the debt. I mean, that's where the meat of all this is the footnotes.
Yeah, and if we did that here, it would be live streamed, and citizens who really want to know what's going on could watch it. So I'd throw it back to the council. Is that something that the council wants to do?
Would that be a public meeting that we would have?
And it would just basically explain a little bit to everyone what is happening with the town's finances, so everyone I like the idea of knowing kind of a little bit more about the debt we have right now. There's a lot of things you come into the council and you can ask, I bug Bo all the time asking him questions, but there's a lot of things you don't know when you come in, and you kind of learn hitting every rock going down the river. So being able to talk to you guys before going into our next budget.
Governmental is a very complicated accounting process.
Yeah.
It really is, and most people don't realize how difficult it is, or complicated it is.
I, for one, would like to know more about the budget process. I mean, about what the audit says.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
And And I do have some questions anyway, but just a few, since we're gonna spend 2 or 3 hours on it. Just a few general ones, if I might, and other people may too, but, first question is, the fees that we charge for selling water, that's under the, enterprise fund or the utility fund. Do those fees flow into the general fund, and do they offset the cost of providing all the services that the town provides, benefits and all that stuff?
They don't flow into the general fund, but there is a transfer that's done from the water sewer fund to the general fund each year to help with those costs, yes.
To cover which costs?
Administrative costs. And stuff.
Administrative costs.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes.
But as far as pool covers and resurfacing streets and paying the Republic garbage pickup, the water fees we collect don't pay for that, do they?
Not the water fees, but there's a sanitation fee that is in the
Oh, yeah,
general
that's right,
fund.
right. But as
Yeah.
far as selling, so what we hear sometimes is that we're selling water, and we're hearing especially from the Triple Communities people this year because we kicked their rates way up and they're not happy about that, and I don't blame them, but we did it to them. And there's some concern that we're doing it as a profit, that we're selling water, making money off them to pay for all the other things that the town does.
No, I mean, the only fee, like, the only thing I said, there's some transfers for just administrative costs, but the water sewer fees stay in the utility fund and are part of that fund's, income and expense.
Okay, so hopefully they're all listening tonight and know that they're not paying.
Water and sewer is a proprietary fund. It's run like a business. It's a business type setting.
Right.
Where you capitalize your equipment, put your notes on the books, you depreciate it, all of those type things, just like a business down the street. General fund is different animal altogether.
Thank you. And then the long-term debt loan balances that you have in the report, in our agenda pack, I think were like pages 560, 561 out of that 627-page book that we had. Those loan balances, you stated them as what the loan balance would be if we paid it off on June 30, 2024. Is that right? You did not, you told us, you reported in there how much the annual payments are, how many years are left, but the total that you had on the right-hand side is the balance if it's paid right then.
It's the
Principal balance.
principal balance.
Principal,
Yeah.
At
okay.
June 30th.
Not the interest, principal, okay.
Right.
On page 4, you state that the fund balance is 6.9 million, which is 123.6% of the annual expenditures. I assume that's good. That's good. Page 7 and elsewhere, oh yeah, here's one that puzzled me. There are references to increases in both assets and liabilities of about $2 million. And the numbers are pretty close to each other. I mean, I'm talking about increases between 2023 and 2024. Page 7, it'll pop up.
Yeah, I see it there. So which numbers you talking about?
Both the assets and liabilities are about $2 million higher than last year, than 23.
I'd have to go, I mean, I don't know exactly off the top of my head what caused that, but I'd have to look into that some more. And the general fund was up about 2.5 million current assets. Your, total assets was up about 2.5 million. Not right here.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah, current assets on page 7. Current and other assets went from 10.5 million up to 13 million, so that's about 2.5 million.
And this, under the governmental activities, that's what Phil's talking about.
That's what
there,
I'm talking about.
where there's two set of statements. So the governmental activities columns, they include capital assets. They also include long-term debt, where the general fund assets, no, that's where Phil was talking earlier about two different sets of statements. So that could be, I mean, you have capital assets in there along with, other assets in all your funds, not just your general fund, but you have all your, like your capital project funds, any kind of governmental fund would be included in there. I mean, I can do some more digging for you and get back.
The reason why that went up is we got that 2.2 million for the Hoyle Creek project. We got that 2.2 million that came in. That's where that's reflected.
Is that what that is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if that might be it. So so we already have that 2.2 million?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, that was interesting though. So, well, Creek project, we've already got 2.2 million, so.
Correct.
We got it last year, so you had to kind of.
Yeah, that's the deferred.
Exactly, that's deferred.
That's where we had to set it up as, deferred revenue,
It's
yeah,
That's on the balance sheet, isn't it? As a
for the, yeah,
refundable advance.
right.
All right, and then on page 18, I think you did this, you pointed this out, but I want to do it again because it looked like such good news to me. The 2024 revenue through June 30 came in 1.1 million above the budget, right?
Yes, yeah, the last column, yes, that's correct.
Right. And expenditures came in about 600,000 above budget, but of course, that's the difference there is why we were able to add $588,000 to the town's reserves, and that was just great. And then I got a final question. I asked about this last year. I'm still a little puzzled by it. I think when I asked last year, I think you said that you recommended the way that the town should handle an employee who uses a town vehicle for personal commuting home to work is to charge them $1.50 each trip. And I just wonder, you still feel that's a valid thing to do?
Yeah, that's in accordance with IRS regulations. It's what they recommend or what they say it should be, and that, they have to pay taxes on that.
Yeah, so just the question that leaves me with, and I've been puzzling about it all year. So assuming that it costs the town $11,000 to provide a vehicle to one employee to commute. I'm talking that $11,000 just for the commuting distance.
Mm-hmm.
Just that cost, not what it's used for in town. So that employee would reimburse the town $3 a day for, say, 250 days, $750, leaving about $10,000 there that is costing the town to provide this employee with transportation. So where do we charge that? Is that a $10,000? We're not, the employee's not being, it's not being treated as taxable benefit, so he's not paying taxes on it. It's not a personnel expense, I don't think. Is it just the business expense?
I mean, the expense of the vehicle would be in that department, it would be under vehicle expense. So, I mean, it's getting expense there. I mean, I'm not sure where the reimbursement part goes, but yeah, I mean, you have a difference there that I guess that the town's paying.
It almost have, it would have to be, you correct me if I'm wrong, though, it would have to, for that kind of a difference, it would have to be someone that wasn't in the town limits, I would think.
Right.
Living outside the town limits, right, Bo?
Yeah, I mean, there is a difference, and the $1.50 came from the IRS regulations, so
Yeah.
that's just, that's the minimum that they recommend. If so, that always can go up if that becomes an issue, but that's under council's direction.
Yeah, I think the
You'd almost have
council
to do a study with it, if there is that situation that exists, I don't know. We've never really done a study. to see.
It's a little bit of a morale problem because, at one time, I think maybe this report, there were 3 individuals who were doing that, 2 or 3. One of those, I know, is retired, and so that's gone away, but it's still there. It's still bothering some citizens, and if I were a town employee, it would bother me if I wasn't that one. So, okay, thank you for that. I don't have any other questions, so hopefully somebody else does.
Well, if you get a time together and let us know, we'll be more than happy to come, spend some time going through the report. It is a complicated report, it really is.
Thank you. Okay, council, going back to item D, just to prevent any hiccups, I'd like a motion and second to approve the RFQ for engineering services for the Berrytown Water Line Replacement Project, please.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Those in favor signify by saying yes and raising your right hand.
Yes.
Thank you. Item F, approval of resolution withdrawing Lovelady Road Sidewalk Phase 1 project application.
I move that the council withdraw the town's application to the Greater Hickory Metropolitan Planning Organization in the amount of $3,671,660 and commitment of $734,332 as a cash match for the Lovelady Road Sidewalk Phases 1 and 2 as approved on June 3, 2024 on the consent agenda.
Council have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion?
Yes, as the mover, let me discuss that a little bit. I am the town's representative on the Transportation Advisory Committee of the Greater Hickory Metropolitan Planning Organization. And a little over a year ago, last April, I learned that the state was making $3.5 million available that the municipalities in the area could apply for. That's 4 counties that are in this area. A lot of municipalities, I don't know how many municipalities, maybe 28 or something like that. So at any rate, then it went, I came back, I explained it to our planning director and our then interim manager, and I passed along the advice that we had from COG, which was, there's gonna be a lot of competition for it. Don't ask for the moon, ask for something that's reasonable, something that you know you can match, and something that's gonna help your town, something that qualifies. Not everything qualified, sidewalks, traffic lights, intersections, things like that. So at any rate, what happened then was, I don't know how much time, how much effort went into getting the town department heads involved in this to see who had any suggestions for improving the town. But I think what happened was that you had to provide engineering drawings to apply. That was part of it. And maybe that's one of the reasons why the planning director pretty much turned it over to the Burke River Trail Association to submit a proposal. And then we submitted the proposal as I just stated for $3.6 million, which was $100,000 more than was available. So at any rate, the Transportation Advisory Committee ended up approving half of that, and that came back and the council dealt with it at the last meeting. Nobody picked it up. I think we were hearing from citizens, both sides of the coin, whether we should commit $286,000 to that or not, whether we needed that sidewalk or not, but nothing happened. And as the mayor declared, since there was no motion, no second, the issue was dead. So here I am, I'm the town's representative to the Transportation Advisory Committee, and I just feel that I have an obligation to report back to that committee that the town did not pick up what was approved at the January meeting. Now, as, as we have learned, we don't have to take any action on this thing. We can leave it hang almost indefinitely, at least until the federal government pulls it back. And this is federal funding, it's not state funding. There are a lot of considerations, then we don't know all of them. But if we turn it back, now, if we withdraw our application, it goes back into the pot, so to speak, where the Transportation Advisory Committee in the next month or so will open up applications again to Valdez and all the other municipalities in the four-county area, and give Valdez and all these other towns the opportunity to apply for something they might feel is needed. So that's the sort of moral or ethical dilemma, I guess, that I feel that I'm in as a town's representative to the Transportation Advisory Committee that approved some funds, and we can sit on them and not let anybody have a shot at them until the federal government pulls them back, or we can turn them back and we can go in and ask for something else, and the other municipalities in the four-county area can go in and ask for something that they feel they need, whether it's an intersection, traffic lights, sidewalks, whatever it is. So that's why I want to make it clear, we don't have to do anything. On the other hand, if we don't do anything, it might look a little bit selfish that Valdez has got 1.3 or 1.4 million dollars, and it's going to hang on to them until somebody comes up with a way to use it, and it'll have to come back to the council, because when it's been to the council once, it was a non-issue. So I made the motion, it's been seconded. We can withdraw if we get 3 votes on that motion, or we can defeat it and keep sitting on it. So that's my mover's explanation of why I made the motion.
I would like to point out that, based on the information we were given tonight, that we do have 1 to 2 years to act on this. We have a group that has said that they would try to find the money to match, so the town does not have to come up with this money. We would be reimbursed every 30 days, so why would we let this grant go? It is part of the River Trail section, so why would we let it go? From my work in the school system, and I work with grants all the time, you do not give back grant money. You better know when you apply for grant money, there's competition, you better know what you're applying for, and that is certainly something that you don't give back.
Anyone else?
I have personally, there was so much information thrown at us, and I have gone back and forth about this myself, because I know that there are a lot of areas of our town that do need grant money for some much. I actually had someone write me and they said, heck, a sidewalk down Lovelady Road, our side of town doesn't even have one sidewalk. They've got them all over there. So I'm dealing with people saying don't do it. I'm dealing with people saying do it. I personally would like to see it tabled just so we can get all the information. I want to see all the pieces, because there was stuff that came out that I can't say I fully understand everything that, and I know everybody, go ahead, laugh. I'm admitting I'm not perfect. I don't fully understand all that happened, because I hear what we've been talking about the last few weeks about how we were going to have to pay this money. It had to be done up front, and then we turn around, it doesn't have to be paid up front, and nobody's given a direct answer. And I don't know if that means sitting down with Hugh Blackwell and Beth and saying, hey, let's sit in a room together and figure this out. But I would like to table, personally, I do think we need to table it at least a month so we can get definitive answers. Is it a thing? And talking to Hugh, he could tell us, are we going to get any more grants? Is this grant a for sure thing? Right now, the world is crazy, and we don't know if we're gonna get any more money. We don't even know if we'll get this money, to be honest. I don't trust the federal government any further than I can throw that podium. So it's a situation right now where I want more details before I say, let's shut it down. Is this all that they're gonna give us money to do? Is the only way we get the money is if we do this trail? I guess, the only way I would do it is if it was to, and I know I gotta move on but the big thing to me right now is making sure that that money would be covered, because I can't in good conscience spend that money on a sidewalk when there's people in our town who need things done. Like the huge potholes in the road right now are becoming an issue, and I hear about that more than any sidewalk project. But tabling it a month, I don't see a problem with doing, to where we all know, we're all understanding what's happening.
Councilwoman Ward, I agree with you. I don't think we have all the information.
I am upset.
I heard more information tonight than I have heard about it. And I think we need more information.
It was kind of disappointing to not hear more information about this until tonight. So.
Yeah, one of the problems is some of the information we're hearing is not correct.
Yeah.
We don't know it's correct.
Mm-hmm.
And the big problem is, we could have just laid low on this, but it got out on social media. And I got more phone calls and complaints about that. Why is the Friends of the Valdez Rec pushing the town council to do something that they decided last month they didn't want to do? So that's one of the reasons why I thought, we're forced into, I just felt forced into making tonight's motion, get it out. Like I say, we can give this money back, and Valdez and other towns can go and apply for it in a couple months, or we can sit on it. All determined by how we vote on this. We vote yes to give it back. We vote no. We just keep sitting on it.
Anyone else?
So we have a roll call vote if we're gonna vote, so let's
just
go
a
on.
second. Go ahead, Gary.
The table motion, how does that affect what? So if I make a motion to table,
Until next month. You have to give a date, so we would say next month.
Give a date till the next council meeting, or how long you want to do that. Okay.
let's see, the next council meeting is,
You can just state, I make a motion to table until the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
okay, I'll make a motion to table it until the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
Just, I'm gonna go along with this, but we're gonna have to go through this all over again next month.
Okay. Any further discussion? Those in favor of tabling this until the next regular scheduled council meeting, signify by saying yes and raising your right hand.
Yes.
So be it. Thank you, council. Okay. Next item G, Recreation Department Expenditure Overview 7-year Analysis. Mr. Wackles, sir.
Let me change this
Sure.
stream. Hold on.
He came in here wearing 4 hats, now he's got a 5th hat tonight.
All right. So this was requested at the pre-agenda meeting. And let me see where it's at here. Okay. So it was requested for the last 7 years of capital and maintenance related expenses for the recreation facility, in particular the community center and the splash pad. So this is what this is reporting. Everything there listed is like capital expenditures. At the bottom, the maintenance repairs of facilities, those are in one bucket. So that does include other rec facilities like the Tiger Gym and the park and stuff. So I know Tiger Gym had about $35,000 of airflow upgrades in there. So that is reflected in here, but overall, the two big things are the splash pad USDA loan that we have. We did the gymnasium and the downstairs renovations 2 years ago. So those are, I put those at the top. But overall, you got about a little over 3.1 million that we put into these facilities over the past 7 years. And then we still have one loan outstanding of $642,000, and we owe on that for quite a long time. I can't remember exactly how long, but I think it's like another 32 years. I'll be long retired by then.
What year was our rec facility built? Was it 30s, 1930s?
I'm not sure that, I can
Do you
find
know,
out.
Mr. Anderson? Can you tell us, please?
1938.
1938, okay. So obviously a building built in 1938 is going to need a lot of upgrades and a lot of maintenance on it.
Yeah, we after I put this together, we had an issue down in the basement with some flooding. I think
Yes.
I emailed all of you on that. So still working through that, but that, you know, just the galvanized pipes, which are not even used anymore, those are just getting old and rusting through. So just things like that. The building gets old, we have to put money into it to
Yeah.
revitalize it.
And I think, you know, recreation, I had a realtor tell me today that they sold a house because of people looking at the recreation facilities in Valdez as well as the parks that we have in Valdez, and that brought the person to Valdez to buy their house, and that helps us with their property taxes, which helps us with economic development. So I think we see a rec center is not out there to make money, it's out there for the use of our citizens.
Is there any word yet about how much those repairs will be in the basement, or when we would know?
No, we're still trying to get a couple different evaluations. I did ask about the piping, why a metal piping was recommended, or they're looking at that. So apparently, code does not allow us to put PVC piping in the building. So it's either gonna have to be stainless steel or copper. So that was kind of a new one to me, but we also, the damages were the HVAC system, one of those units got some parts that need replaced, and then the water heater also was gonna have to be replaced as well. Now, the things that got damaged, we're gonna try to do an insurance claim on, but the actual piping and stuff, that's gonna have to be out of town funds.
Anyone else, council? Okay, moving on to item H, status of ongoing or approved projects, sir.
All right. So public safety facilities update. So at the pre-agenda meeting we had last week, we were gathering RFQs at that point. So now Friday was the deadline to get those in. So we had a total of 7 general contractors submit for a design build process. DR Reynolds, Edison Ford, Miles McClellan, Moss Marlowe, Samet Corporation, Wharton Smith, and Wilson. So those are our 7 that we got on hand. The next step is to evaluate these statement of qualifications. It's a booklet for about 30 pages each. Once those are evaluated by a review committee, and then we'll select 2 or 3 to interview and narrow down that process. So I think the next step is to figure out who that review panel is going to be. I think that's the big thing now. Until we get that figured out, we can't move forward.
You know, all of these are design build, is that correct?
Yes, they're all general contractors.
Now, are they doing the police department, the Mitchell building separately than the fire department? And then they're going to do one together, is that correct?
Yeah, so phase 1 was a 30% budget review of 3 options, doing renovating 215 Main, and then a new fire station at 200 Massell, or doing the combo building at 200 Massell.
Right.
So that was the 3. They're going to do a 30% design, schematic design level for the budget purposes.
Now, these companies will do that? They will do
Yes.
So they've agreed to do all those three things.
Yeah, by
Okay.
submitting, they did, yep, yep.
Okay.
so.
Good.
Yeah, I made the recommendation to the council, I don't know if we need to resolve it here in this meeting tonight, but this, hiring this general contractor is the most important, hiring job that the town will do. It's a long-term project. Phase one is gonna take a few months, and then construction begins. It's gonna go into another year or so. You know, I've hired these kind of contractors 2 or 3 times, but I don't wanna be involved with reviewing and recommending these contractors because their tenure, their contract's gonna be a lot longer than the few months I have left on the council. So, but what I strongly recommend is that we get review. I think, Mr. Weichel, I think you need to be on that review team just to coordinate things, make sure everything's legally right and all that stuff. But I think we want maybe have about 5 printed hard copies of these things, right? I would really urge us to go out into the community, go to the manufacturing plants out there. There are at least 4 that have done multi-million-dollar renovations and construction in the last few years. And I think whoever's in that plant, whether it's the general manager or the CEO or the plant manager, I think they would be pleased if we asked them to help us with this and review this and make a recommendation to the council. I think it would be great relationship building between the town and our industrial partners, our big employers in town. We don't have much contact with them. And so I just think that'd be a very positive thing to do. But most importantly, I don't think we ought to have somebody who has not dealt with big construction projects and hired big general contractors deciding which of these is a better contractor and making a recommendation to the council. You know, I hired Clancy & Thays in Raleigh. It's one of the big ones in the state, but I don't want to be involved in this. I want some people who have been involved in construction the last few years, last 4 or 5 years, and worked with maybe with some of these companies, but know what all's involved, all the things to look for. I'd like them to review these proposals and come back to the council with a recommendation.
Anybody else?
To stay on schedule, like, I know we have the schedule, how quick do we need to have that review committee put together?
So according to the schedule we have, that's always fluid, don't we?
Yeah.
But we'd have these reviews done by the middle of this month.
Okay.
We'd set up interviews at the end of the month. So the goal was to have a phase 1 contract delivered at the March meeting. No, I'm sorry, at the April meeting. So the phase 1 contract we submitted to us has still got to go through legal review with Mr. Swanson. Then it would be on the April agenda. So if we get delayed a little bit, it probably would be pushed out to the May agenda and so forth. So it's a tight schedule for this month, trying to get all those reviewed. Having 5 people, it's coordination, everybody's time, and so it is a tight schedule. But that was my goal when I was putting this together.
But we do have 3 people that are still on our facilities review committee, correct? There are 3 people that are still on that committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still an active committee as far as at this point.
Yeah, and they could be activated to be part of this, and you could add 2 more.
Well, I'm one you just heard from me. I feel like I'm pretty knowledgeable in this area, but I'm not that current, and,
Well, but we still have three. We have Tom Moxentine, we have Tessa, and we have Jerry Hyde.
I stand by my recommendation. I think one of the people you mentioned is a plant manager. She probably has that experience. The other thing is, the council could make the decision. We could have all those contractors come in and make the presentations to the council. We could review them. Council could decide, but I just don't think that's good. I think we ought to have some very knowledgeable managers who have managed these kind of projects.
I think Mr. Wykel's qualified to make those decisions. As to
You want
who
me to
feel
put the
like.
panel together? Okay.
You have construction experience, you're the town manager,
Okay.
you're the finance director, chief cook and bottle washer. I think you're more than qualified to decide who needs to look at those contracts.
Okay. Very well.
Any more questions on public safety? Hearing none, we'll move to the water plant upgrade project. This is for the the Valdez-Lenore Interconnect project.
Yes. So, two parts of this project is the Valdez side and Lenore side. There are some things we're waiting on the city of Lenore to make the decisions on before we can proceed with our part. But we are in the design process for equipment upgrades at the plant. So McGill's been out there. They've been doing some recording the drawings, some surveys, reviewing our electrical system. So all that's going on simultaneously while they also are working with City of Lenore because they have that contract as well, which is going to work well bringing that line across the river there. So once Lenore figures out where they're going to put some of their pump stations, then the design of that line going across the river can start. So it's still a multi-year project here, but we are making some headway.
And if memory serves me correctly, the town received $7 million in grant money for that project?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other, I think it's $23 million went to Lenore.
Correct. And then the big benefit for Valdez, besides the grant money that we got to upgrade our plant, but the big benefit is that selling that water to Lenore.
Mhm.
So,
And redundancy.
yeah.
I like that. Okay. Council questions? Okay, hearing none. Fiscal year 25 year-to-date financial results.
So, in the reading material for your agenda packets, you'll see the year-to-dates, which would be through December, because when we posted that, we hadn't closed the month of January out yet. So that was 50% of the budget year in the reading material. So that's for general fund and utility fund. So going forward for the rest of this budget season, we're gonna include that every month in the reading material, just to keep everybody updated. General funds, it's right on track. I try to look, big picture, 50%. But utility fund, if you did take a look, the expenditures are at 38%. The reason why it's lower than 50% expenditures at this point in the year, because of Hurricane Helene. We did those budget amendments. We had almost $1 million worth of damages at the water plant. We have not fulfilled those contracts yet. We're still working on that. So when we did the budget amendment, it increased the budget, but our expenditures hasn't caught up to that yet. So I expect in the next half of this year, we'll catch up pretty quickly. I don't really have any other things to say about that unless somebody has some questions. But.
Council, questions?
I appreciate you having this in the packet for the next few months. That's very helpful to see these figures going forward.
Good.
Okay.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Sure. Go ahead.
Are there any major expense lines that were running over budget as of December 31st? Significantly over any that we need to worry about?
Significantly over? No, not that, there's a few that were over, but nothing that I'm worried about, because sometimes those are front-loaded, so just, it depends on what it is, but.
And then I noticed that you picked up on this, but the council was aware of it, but citizens may not be, that the administration salary budget is related to our manager search, and at the end of December, you pointed out that was $29,000 under budget, so that's looking good. And assuming that we aren't able to get a full-time manager started before July 1st, which is probably pushing it, we'll find out. Where do you think that'll end up at the end of the year?
We'll probably be another 50 or 60,000 in addition to the 30 now.
50 to 60,000,
Yeah.
good, to the good?
Yeah.
That's good. And then when we look at the revenue, actually, that's probably a good point to point something out, everybody. The reason we're gonna be 50 to 60,000 to the good on that salary budget is that Mr. Weichel is wearing really 4 hats. But certainly the chief financial officer and the interim manager hat. And I don't think people realize what a good job he's doing. I know it's not realized how well he is managing that interim manager job. I think I can't say for sure, but I suspect that our department heads are getting more direction now and more frequent communication from our interim manager than they have for a long time. So,
Thank you.
I just want to acknowledge that, so thank you for
Appreciate
that. Now, let's see, you cited a few seasonal fees that you thought would catch up pretty soon. Old Rock School because it was down for a while for renovation, and Rec Center because things are slower in the winter. But as far as you know, these things still look pretty good. As long as,
Yeah, rec center revenues are down, mainly because of the pool being down, but because the pool's down, we're not gonna see that part-time labor as much as we had anticipated, so that should offset.
Okay. And then, interest income, it's already exceeded the total amount budgeted for the year by $148,000. That's for the whole year, so we're already $140,000 ahead of the game on that one. What's the total amount of the funds that we have out there earning interest for us? How many million is that?
I've got separate accounts, but I think total are about $9 to $10 million earning interest right now.
And what kind of interest rates we getting today? I mean, I know you can only do it short term, right?
Yeah, they're liquid accounts, but we're getting, I think 4.54 was the last time I looked, last week.
So at the end of the year, we might end up with, we're 148,000 already, over the budget.
I'm hopeful, as long as that interest rate stays up.
Okay. Fed hasn't changed it in the last couple of months anyway. And what is this line item 10-3350-50 that has $1,500 unbudgeted income?
I have to get to that. What was it? 10?
It was just $1,500 in there. It was item 10-3350-50.
050?
I thought, I just saw 50, I don't know, maybe.
Okay. I think that's our other income, which would just be fines and stuff that come in.
Oh, okay.
Through animal control, things like that.
So it's not an activity.
No.
And then Powell bill funds. So we got a little bit of a windfall this year on that. We already have a couple $100,000 and we budgeted 165 or something.
Yes, sir. Yep. So we're gonna bump that up a little bit in the next budget cycle, because I think we're safe to get to the next level now.
Okay, well, that's good. And is that gonna be continuous each year from now on? You think we're gonna be that high with
It
Powell?
fluctuates, but last year we were a little higher, not as high as this year, but I think the trends we're seeing a little bit higher. So I think we're safe to say we're going to be somewhere in that 180 to 200 vicinity.
Okay, well, that's good. That'll help us if we can ever pin down DOT to resurface our streets.
Oh, I had, I'm
And the
sorry.
Valdez Housing, how do we get $8,000 from them?
So that's a payment in lieu of taxes. So there's a formula that they do, and now the COG has taken over. But since they aren't property taxes, but it's based on the rental income. So this formula this year was a little more than what we had gotten in previous years.
Okay.
So I think we budgeted 20,000 and we got 28 this year. So you're seeing 8,000 more than what we had budgeted.
All right. Is that gonna continue running ahead of budget, or?
This is the first time I've seen it that high, so I wouldn't count on that every year.
All right. So, there, when I added all those up, it looks to me like just on those last few items I mentioned, the town's already received $192,500 above what we had budgeted for the year on those items. So that's good, right?
Yep, and the county's doing a good job with our tax collections. You heard the auditors earlier tonight had 99.37%, so that's really good.
And in a couple weeks, we'll know how much they collected, right?
Yeah. Oh, you mean for January?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bo, I had a quick question,
Mhm.
sorry. On the utility fund revenue, the taps and connection fees, it looks like we've already brought in more than was budgeted for that.
Mhm.
What goes into that one? Why would it already be over?
That's development, so that's new connections.
Okay.
So new
So
houses
some of the
being
late-
built. Yeah, and we just can't predict that. We kind of go on a history trend, so.
Okay,
The good thing is that we're getting more development than we had planned.
right,
So,
okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Strategic plan, citizens' priorities.
So we're in month 2 of this. The second round went out with water bills. So once we get those in, COG's gonna tabulate, and they will be at the March 31st meeting to present all the data and results.
Okay. So that's the last survey that was sent out. That's not the original strategic plan that we done, correct?
This is citizen priority survey.
Okay.
And it's still available online for anyone who hasn't completed it. as
Okay.
well.
Next item, status of comprehensive parks and recreation plan.
So, again, rec staff is working with the COG staff to do these. They had their 2 citizen input meetings. So once they compile the results from that, they'll start doing the inventories at the parks and doing those studies. So their estimated completion date for this comprehensive plan is by the end of June of this year. So that's the goal.
Any questions on that, council? Okay, town manager search process. Most of y'all know where we're at, and for our citizens tonight, we are meeting with COG to fine tune some of our priorities on our search and go from there. Okay. Item I, potential Valdez Town Charter Amendment. Mr. Harvey, I believe that's you.
Yes, I've mentioned it a couple times. It's the possibility of amending the town's charter to make the mayor term 2 years instead of 4 years, as it was for the first 80 years of the town's history until the year 2000. Year 2000, it became a 4-year term like the council terms. So I've got no axe to grind on this, but I just want to put it out for citizens. If you think it's a good idea, let us know. And if we're going to do it, in the near future, we need to do it pretty soon, like probably at the next meeting, because it's got to be a referendum, and it's got to be done before you get to the point of filing for the next term. And so I guess sometime in July, the mayor's seat and 3 other council seats up here will be up for filing. So it needs to be done pretty soon if we're gonna do it. The thing about the mayor is, mayors typically get involved with the campaigns every 2 years, because about half the town's council turns over every 2 years. And, you know, there may be an argument that it would be good if we had the mayor out there participating in the campaigns with half of the council every 2 years. But that's about all I'm gonna have to say on that until people come back and say, let's do it, or if we don't hear anything more about it. Nothing more for me.
I would like to speak to that. I have some reasons that I think we should continue with a 4-year mayor term. I think it will provide stability and continuity. Longer terms can provide greater stability and continuity in leadership. With a 4-year term, mayors have more time to develop and implement their policies and initiatives without the disruption of frequent elections. Long-term planning. Many projects, particularly in urban planning, infrastructure, and community development, require long-term commitment and vision, and a 4-year term allows mayors to plan and execute strategies that span multiple years. Focus on governance. With a 4-year term, mayors can focus more on governance and less on campaigning. This can lead to better decision-making and policy implementation, as they aren't constantly preparing for an election. Building relationships is a reason. Longer terms allow mayors to build stronger relationships with other local officials, community leaders, and residents. This can enhance collaboration and effectiveness in addressing community issues. Attracting strong candidates. A 4-year term might attract more qualified candidates to run for mayor. Knowing that they will have more time to implement their agenda may incentivize experienced leaders to seek office. Voter engagement. With longer terms, voters may have a better opportunity to assess a mayor's performance over time, providing a more informed voting decision in the next election. And the last, less political volatility. More frequent elections can lead to rapid changes in leadership that may hinder a town's progress. Longer terms can help stabilize political agendas and promote sustained initiatives. And these are the reasons I feel like we should continue with a 4-year mayor term.
Anyone else?
I feel like either way we look at it, we do need to, in the next election cycle, we all need to be on our best behavior as council people. We do represent our town, and I just want to make sure that we all stay out of it. I think it is only proper. It is not our place to choose who is on this council next year. I mean, we can vote, but I think we do need to be on our best behavior to represent our town well. And even if your best buddies are running, I think it's going to be good for us all to keep a smile on and say, may the best man win. So.
Anyone else? Okay, item J, fiscal year 25-26 budget plans and schedule. Sorry.
So we went over this in detail last week. Pull it up here. So the budget schedule, I won't go into such detail this time, but just a few highlights to remember. April 15th and 16th is our budget review number 1. So that's when we'll come with a preliminary budget of what kind of big picture, what we're looking at. We'll look for council's direction and where to go from there. Take that back through mid-April to early May, make those implementations. And then in May 12th will be budget review number 2. That's when we'll really fine tune things and get some things nailed down. And then May 28th is when the proposed and complete budget would be in that June pre-agenda packet. And then at June 2nd, the budget will be presented, set the public hearing date, which will be June 23rd, and then that's when the budget ordinance gets adopted.
Questions, council?
In the meantime, we're having staff and manager meetings constantly about this, both on the general fund and the utility fund side, all behind the scenes.
Anybody? Okay. Interim manager's report.
Okay.
Excuse me,
Go ahead.
there's two more items on there, 2 and 3 under that one, Joe.
You want to discuss those?
I don't really have anything to say with those, so all that will kind of be discussed at the budget review number 1.
Well, then on the item 3 there, the budget planning considerations, council discussion, I've been inspired by the audit report, which we had a week to study, and then by the year-to-date financial results through December. And so I was inspired to make the following motion. I move that the following guidelines for the interim manager's direction in the development of the fiscal year 24-25 budget. Number 1, the town of Valdez shall levy ad valorem taxes on property at a rate not exceeding 41.5 cents per $100 of assessed value. And number 2, the budget shall be prepared such that there is no reduction in essential services or fund reserves.
Council,
So that was the motion.
Yep.
Second.
discussion?
Yes, I have, as the mover. In short, as we heard this evening, the town's finances are strong, so there's no reason to raise taxes on Valdez property owners this year. Let's review a few of those key points we heard tonight and that are in this agenda packet. The 2023 tax rate was set to provide $395,000 in new revenue, mostly for street repaving. Instead, as we see from the 6/30/24 audit, we collected $220,000 more than budgeted, 56% more than the manager at that time said was needed. Interest income was budgeted at $100,000, but it came in at $671,000, $571,000 over budget last year through June 30. Even though the manager was terminated with a $70,000 golden parachute and another $90,000 had to be spent to hire an interim manager, and the Old Rock School renovation was bid $500,000 over the funding ordinance, we still ended the year last June adding $588,000 to our reserves. So the fiscal year ending June 30 was budgeted in the red. It was budgeted in the red last year by $238,000 to come out of reserves. You heard the auditors say it ended up in the black by $391,000, an improvement of over $600,000. So that's how much better we did last year than was budgeted. So as the audit reports stated, the year ended much stronger than budgeted last year. How's the year going this year? As we heard, for the first 6 months, very well. All major expense factors are running as expected, no surprises in store. By loading our chief financial officer up with three other hats, the town will be saving upwards of $60,000 in administrative salaries. We heard that. Several key revenue items already have brought in over $190,000 more than budgeted for the entire year. Interest income may add another $200,000 to $1,000 or so for $400,000 more than budgeted again this year. So don't we all wish that our personal finances were tracking that well? So what are we hearing from citizens? The majority I'm hearing from say, do not raise the tax rate. What about the silent hundreds? All those folks on the west side of town who I talked with last year, and what I learned last year that I didn't realize before, didn't realize it clearly. Valdez is two towns. You could draw a line almost down the center. On the west side of town, we have people living in small mill houses, and a lot of those people were retired textile workers, elderly people, a lot of them on fixed income. Most of them don't have internet. They're not watching this program tonight. They're not coming out here and expressing their wants for more things. They're just trying to make a go of it. We stopped sending a newsletter out with water bills last year. The only thing they heard from the council last year was that the mayor sent a very good letter in July summarizing what we had done so far, and with that letter they found out that they got a 20% tax cut last year. But that tax cut was only for Valdez taxes. Almost everybody I talked to on that side of town who lived in those smaller homes got really hit by the reassessment, because some people in the neighborhood have fixed up homes and sold them, so the assessors use that comparative value, and those people got 150 to 200% tax increases. I mean, they were hurting. I mean, I heard so many sad stories, I hate to relate them. But at any rate, we represent them as well as the people on this side of town, some of whom come in and scoff at this 20% tax cut they got last year. But it's a big deal. And you know, for a lot of people, the taxes are no problem, and going up or down, well, going up wouldn't be a big thing. But we've got a lot of people, hundreds of people in this town, who are juggling Social Security, welfare, and disability income between food, medicine, utilities, and property taxes. Again, this council represents all those people too. So then the question is, how would the staff meet possible rising expenses of some of the things that we have to purchase? And then, do we give the staff a cost of living increase this year? Well, I think it would be great, and I've kind of brought this up a couple times at the last couple meetings where we've talked about finances. It'd be great to challenge our staff this year to do what each of us has to do in our household and what those of us who work out in the private sector have to do. Find a way to live within your means. We had a good year we're having a good year this year. We had a great year last year. We'll have as much revenue this year as we did, as we budgeted, certainly, probably more. Well, it looks like it might be $300,000 or $400,000 more than we budgeted even. So the town's in strong financial shape. We don't need a tax rate. The capital improvements we need are not impacted by taxes, not yet. If we have to get a loan for the public safety building, a long-term loan, that's going to have to be paid back by taxes. But the pool bubble, a big chunk of the public safety building, street resurfacing, we had a scheme where we could borrow from ourselves or borrow from a bank and pay it back from Powell bills, so it wasn't really going to cost more taxes anyway. If we just get DOT to spend some time in this end of Burke County, but we certainly understand why they're working on the western part of the state. So at any rate, we're in town's in excellent financial shape. It's not hurting for revenue, and I think it would be good if our staff would tighten their belts a little bit, and let's live with the tax rate that we have for at least another year.
Can I ask just one thing? And I'm glad that we do have a good financial shape that we're in right now. I have been concerned about the law enforcement salaries that we have discussed, that Chief Sharp has shared with us, and that we have many towns here in Burke County that their officers are making more than our Valdez officers. Would we be able to address that in this budget? Is that something that we will talk about at our budget retreat? Is that something that I'm ahead of the game in asking that question? But I do think that is a concern that when we're talking about law enforcement facility and the public safety facility, we also have to talk about their salaries.
That would be through a salary study, because just like, you know, law enforcement, every one of our departments needs to be evaluated, you know, including our water and sewer plant employees. So that would be a town-wide study that we'd need to do, and we could budget for that in this budget year and have that done.
But we wouldn't have results this budget year from that salary study, correct?
Right, it takes about 6 months or so to
Okay,
get something.
so we would still be even further behind in their salaries as that salary study's taking place.
Right, unless council decided to do something out of the norm, but.
Anybody else?
Something that comes to my mind is, I've been learning a lot in the last few weeks, and we've heard a lot of citizens speak to needs and wants, but I think we know we want to keep this rate as low as we can, but we may need to do something else once we get to the budget point. I think if we can keep it where we're at, so be it. But I think it's a working number at this point, and we've got to think about that as we go into the budget days as well, because we're gonna hear things and be learning of things that, you know, it may affect everything. It's good that we're in great financial shape right now, as these reports say, and we certainly hope that it continues that way. But I think we have to go into it open-minded as well.
Anybody else?
I do know that we've had a lot of people very grateful that we lowered it to 41.5. I even look at people who live in Rutherford College whose tax rate is, I know they don't have all of our amenities, but their tax rate is lovely. You see that, and I have people there, elderly folks, who can't even afford their tax rate. So I can't even imagine, and we're looking at it this way. If you have owned your house, you've paid your mortgage off, every bit of that money at the end of the year has to be paid. These elderly people are having to scrape by every month to put money back, to pay their taxes. And I have had them look at me and say, I'm having to determine whether I'm going, and it is a thing, whether I'm gonna buy my medicine or I'm gonna lose my house. It is a fear for them. We have a lot of new people coming in, hopefully, but we do have an aging community. We have a lot of these old houses that are inherited. It is a problem. I don't like the idea at all of going above 41.5, because I know we all have wants and things, but I guess I always get really irked at these people who worked in these factories. They paid their taxes to pay other people. I'm not even going to go there. It's just really hard for me to be kind right now when it comes to the tax situation, because I'm seeing these. I've had several in the past 2 weeks talk to me about, is it going to stay that rate? Can we lower it even lower? I understand that's going to be hard for us to do right now, because there is a lot that has to be done. There's a lot of things breaking in this town that need to be fixed. I think 41.5 is a good thing, that if we ask the staff to stay within those means, it's still, from what I remember last year, it was a working number still after we made this motion, but we worked to keep it at 41.5. So if we go ahead and say now, this is our expectation, but we go into the budget, we have a goal, but we all work together to say we are going to keep it at 41.5. So I think if people know what the expectation is, it helps with the demand. So I think we had.
And let me provide a little information.
Excuse me.
If we pass,
Should we?
I'm going with what our attorney told me, okay?
I'm sorry?
Just a second. If we pass the tax rate, how difficult would it be to go back and change it? Council needs to know that.
Well, I think what you're doing now, as I understand it, you have a pending motion to basically have your manager work within perimeters.
Right.
So he's gonna work within those perimeters, and he has to work within them unless you have another motion to change it. I think is the best way to clarify that.
That's right.
Yep.
That's what I understand.
Okay. All right. Any questions, any further discussion? Everybody understands the motion?
We have a roll call vote on this one, please.
Okay. Those in favor signify by saying yes. and
Roll call
raising your-
vote,
I heard you. Signify by saying yes and raising your right hand. Ms. Zimmerman,
Yes.
Ms. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Ogle,
Yes.
Mr. Harvey,
Yes.
Ms. Sloan.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Be patient, folks, we'll get there. The next thing I see is the interim manager's report.
Okay. Sorry. All right, so Bluegrass at the Rock presents Joe Mullins and the Radio Ramblers on Saturday, February 8th at 7:30 at Old Rock School. And then the 177th Waldensian Edict of Emancipation and Fallow Bonfire event is Saturday, February 15th at 5:30, and that's at the Waldensian Heritage Museum, or it's presented by them, but it's also at Old Rock School. Next agenda meeting is scheduled for Monday, February 24th for pre-agenda. And then the OCP production of the last 5 years, show dates are February 28th through March 9th, on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And then our next regular council meeting is on March 3rd here at the council chambers.
Okay, council, your turn. Any comments?
I would just like to say thank you to everyone who has written me or called me with their condolences. This has not been an easy meeting for me. My grandmother passed 2 days ago. My family actually changed the funeral date to make sure I could be here tonight. I'm glad to have family that supports me, but thank you all for being so supportive during this time.
Anybody else?
The Old Colony Players production of Willy Wonka, which featured Councilman Ogle's grandson as Willy Wonka, was spectacular. I hope many of you got to see that, and I hope if you did not, you will continue to support the next production of Old Colony Players, which will be at the end of February. They do great community theater, so please come out and support that group.
Thank you, Ms. Long, for that.
Anybody else? Okay, this time, council, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A6 to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, or conditions of initial employment of an individual public officer or employee. Motion, please.
So move.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying yes.
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 So be it. There'll be no action taken in the closed meeting for you folks to note that. And, okay,